think we can start now because we already have 47 participants.
Wonderful. Okay, so I will get started.
So, sir, let me just start the thing.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
So, a very good morning to all of you, respected dignitary and all the dear students. Today, on behalf of IIC of Calcutta Institute of Technology, we arrange one online session on the topic of workshop on entrepreneurship skill, attitude, and behavior development. And for this very purpose, we are lucky to have among with us the eminent speaker, Mr. Atanu Chowdhury, who is the founder of the Capsule Labs. Now, it's over to you, sir, to deliver the session. Thank you.
Thank you. So, welcome one and all, and a very, very good evening to all of you. I know it is getting a little cold, and we have been lucky to have had a spell of cold days here in the Kolkata's region and suburbs, right? So, before I get started, let me put out a few house rules. First of all, I would really, really appreciate if the session is interactive. A lot of what this session is about are personal experiences, are things that I have learned the hard way in many cases along the way over the last almost 30 years of my professional career. Now, you don't have to learn it like that. You can ask questions and you can learn from the experiences that we have had, right? So that's the objective. You can ask questions in Bengali, in Hindi, or in English, as you please. Those are the three languages that I understand, so I'll be able to respond back. I will be responding in English for the benefit of the larger audience. That's the second point. And the third point is, if you feel like you want to interrupt me, now typically when I'm presenting, I don't get to see the remaining screens. So if you have a question, right, please put it up in the chat box or ask it, right? That is a better way of doing it. The more questions you ask, remember, it might sound like a trivial question to you, but it might be a question that is very, very important, and one of your friends was thinking about asking it, they did not ask it, right? So if you ask it, it helps everybody, right? Any questions so far?
Nothing, sir. It's okay.
No, sir.
So today's session is part of the IIC activities, if you will, right? Now, if I go back into the history of IIC, typically we start, this is IIC 6.0, which means that it is in its 6th year. And the idea behind setting up IICs is because the government felt that India as a country of 1.5 billion, right, we needed to be more of employment creators rather than employment seekers, right? There is a very large number of students who are graduating, and if you look at the number of engineering enrollments that has been happening over just the past few years, you will see that there's almost a 25% uptake in the number of students, right? Now, these students are going to graduate. So there is a lot of, let me put it this way, there is a supply and demand mismatch in the market, right? Which means that more and more people would have to get into entrepreneurship, right? Part of that is because, and because of this challenge, government decided that we should have a thrust towards entrepreneurship. How to create that thrust? The idea was that if students who are still in college decide to do something, decide to start up their own companies, decide to start up their own organizations, then by the time they graduate, by the time they finish their college, right, they may have a solution in place. They may be able to create additional employment. That's the idea behind it. So with that, a lot of these innovation and entrepreneurship related discussions have been going on. You will find that there are different levels of engagement. The first thing was to introduce students to the concept of entrepreneurship. Now, many of you in your homes, you will not be having a discussion about entrepreneurship at home. If you are sitting for dinner at home, a lot of your parents may be telling you that, hey, what are you doing in college? Are you studying well? Right? It's not about just studying. Studying is just one part of it, but the purpose, the reason why you are studying is so that you can become a more holistic individual. You can become a more well-rounded individual, right? And that's why the spirit of entrepreneurship becomes very, very important. It allows you to differentiate yourself from your competitors. And if you look at these numbers, there are 8.5 lakh engineers who are going to be graduating, in 2026, right? There's a significant uptick of that, right? So how are we going to do today's discussion? I'm going to be covering essentially 4 topics, right? The first topic is an entrepreneurial mindset. What does it mean to be an entrepreneur? Does it really mean that you will have to start a business, or does it mean something else, right? So the first topic of interest is going to be, what is an entrepreneurial mindset? To get into that, I hear this many times that you have to have an innovative idea. You need to have some innovation so that you become an entrepreneur. You have to file for a patent. You have to write a paper, right, so that you can become an entrepreneur, right? And this is something that I keep hearing every now and then. This is something that I hear, especially coming in from the academic circle quite a bit, right? But if you look at the definitions, right, innovation is an act of creating new experiences or improving a process's efficiency, right? Which basically means, did you create something that changed the way people are using a particular process? For example, earlier you would go out and you would wave your hand at a taxi and a yellow taxi would stop by, right? Today you go onto your app and you book an Ola or an Uber, right? So that's a change in the process, right? That's called a process innovation. Or, earlier we had, milk that was available only in bottles, right? We figured out that there is a mechanism to dry the milk and create milk powder, which increases its shelf life. So that's a product innovation. So the act of creating new experiences or improving a process's efficiency, that's where innovation comes in. Whereas entrepreneurship is more of a behavior, right? It's a change in your mindset. It's a behavioral act of risk to connect capital with labor. The idea being that if you invest more capital, it will increase the efficiency of labor, right? But in my mind, when you look at this picture of saying that innovation leads to entrepreneurship, it's actually the other way around. It is actually entrepreneurship which leads to innovation, because entrepreneurship is a thought process. If you figured out that I have to be in, instead of taking down notes in my class, if I learn shorthand, I might be able to take down a lot of those notes faster. That's a behavioral aspect. So that's where the entrepreneurial ideas come in, and how you execute that is the innovation part, right? So the way I see it is that entrepreneurial spirit is something that is very innate, very inborn. Yes. So I'm sure that in your exams, if you have not studied, a lot of entrepreneurial spirit actually comes out, right? In figuring out how are you going to go about your answers, how are you going to answer that question paper, right? And I know that many of you, especially in the back benches, are extremely entrepreneurial, right? So now the time is right to channelize that entrepreneurship into real life innovations. Why do you need to do that? Because entrepreneurship is a career option by itself, right? Typically, when you are in college, and all of you are in college, your conversations as home have been about what will you do after college. If you are studying well, will you go and get yourself a higher degree, right? Will you go and do a master's? Will you go and do a PhD later on, right? And thereafter it becomes like, after the PhD, then what? Even after your studies, then what? Will you go and look for a public sector career, in which case you are preparing for whatever it is, whether it is the UGC NET, whether it is the CLAT, whether it is a bunch of other PSU job related examinations that you are giving. The idea there is that you have a foundational knowledge base, whatever you are studying, and then you get into administrative services. That's the idea of a public sector career. Many of you might decide to go on and join another organization, right? That's a professional career where you become a software developer, whether you become an architect, whether you become an electrical engineer, or whatever it is. What is coming out now is that there is another avenue as well, which is in terms of entrepreneurship. Can you start your own organization, right? And that organization can be anything. It could be, if you feel that you are a good web developer, right? Can you set up your own one-person company for web development? If you feel like you are a good creative writer, right? Can you set up your own ad agency, right? Now, typically, we have found, if any of you, if any of your parents have been lawyers or have been doctors, right? Typically, they would go out and set up something called a practice, right? They would set up a address, and their clients would come, their patients would come to them, right? So that is also entrepreneurship. A practice is an enterprise, because over time the practice grows. A lawyer will hire more law clerks, more interns, right? If you are a chartered accountant, you will hire apprentices, right? You will hire articles. If you are a doctor, you will hire attendants, you will hire other team members to grow the practice. These are all traits of entrepreneurship. So as even a software developer, you can have an entrepreneurial venture, right? If you look at gig platforms like Fiverr, for example, right, you find a lot of people are offering their services there. They are doing resume reviews. They are doing copywriting, right? So,
Please mute yourself. Audience, please mute yourself.
So in entrepreneurship itself, there are several avenues of creating a revenue source. In doing so, what ends up happening is, with an entrepreneurial approach, you tend to understand your customer a lot better. Right? You tend to understand what is the kind of work you are doing, what are the processes needed to do your work better. So in this whole thing, what ends up happening is you get much, much better at doing that job and understanding your customer much better. That is what the entrepreneurship skill comes into the picture. Right? Everybody with me so far?
Yes, sir.
Having talked about the entrepreneurial mindset, the next thing I want to touch upon is what makes this entrepreneur. What are those skills that you are looking for in an entrepreneur, right? If we say that, yes, somebody is an entrepreneur, right? It's not just that they already have a company. Setting up a company is an end result, right? But the process starts much, much earlier, and the skills of entrepreneurship can be learned even sooner, right? So let me perhaps give you what I call our 12 entrepreneurial skills, right? A good dozen. Because nurturing an entrepreneurial spirit, it offers numerous benefits, especially for you as undergraduates, and it is irrespective of your field of study, right? Because this mindset change that I talked about, this mindset change can significantly enhance your personal, academic, and professional development in various ways. Right? What are these ways? Firstly, there is enhanced problem-solving skills. What do I mean by this? Well, entrepreneurship inherently involves identifying and solving problems creatively. These problems could be anything. It could be your parents bugging you in the morning saying that, hey, switch off the pump because the water is overflowing. That could be a problem. And you could figure out that if I put an overflow pipe on the tank, and every time there's an overflow, I can hear the water overflowing, and I can use that to switch off that information to switch off the pump, right? So that could be an out-of-the-box way of thinking about solving that particular problem, right? Now, as an undergraduate, when you have an entrepreneurial mindset, you are better equipped to tackle complex challenges, because when you are interviewing for a job, right, you might be asked how to solve a particular problem. You might be faced with a particular problem where you have not studied a particular solution, right? And you are thinking on your feet. So that is where this problem-solving skills, this real-life problem-solving skills, they help you both in your studies as well as in real-world scenarios, right? I remember when we were in college, and there were many times when we had to memorize a lot of content, especially in our history classes and all, right? It was almost impossible to memorize everything. So we figured out if we could have some abbreviations that we could use to remember all the points that were there, right? These are problem-solving skills. And these are the skills that you develop as an entrepreneur, right? The second thing is I wanted to talk about is innovation and creativity. Why I'm talking about this is because an entrepreneurial spirit encourages thinking outside the box, right? And you start approaching tasks with a fresh perspective. Your perspective is based on your experiences. Even if 5 friends are doing the same thing, each of them have a different family background. Each of them are mingling and intermingling with different kinds of people around them. So each of them have their own perspectives. In Bengal, we have the concept of having an adda, right? In an adda, everybody comes in with their different perspectives. That is why there are discussions to be held, discussions to be had, right? Things can be debated. There can be different ways of looking at the same problem, right? And this is what leads to innovative ideas and solutions. Again, this is something that is very highly valued in both academic and in a professional setting, right? What else? The third point I probably wanted to talk about was resilience and adaptability. And this is very, very important, because the journey of entrepreneurship, it is kind of filled with these challenges and setbacks. Right? There are many things that will go your way, and there are many things that will not go your way. In my life, I have failed in various subjects. I have been kicked out of a job, right? I have, whatever bad things can happen, happen, right? I've run out of money in a foreign country where I do not speak the language. All of these things have happened. But the thing is that as an entrepreneur, we try to learn from these setbacks, right? The first time I think I was in some place outside of Tokyo, and I did not speak the language at all. I went to a restaurant, and I couldn't just order any food. So eventually I figured out that I had to look at what people in other tables were eating, and I called the waitress and I told her, I couldn't tell her, so I pointed that I want that thing, what that person is having, right? So you figure out how to communicate in difficult and different scenarios, and that is what resilience is about. It is about learning about bouncing back from failures. Failure is not a bad thing. Failure is something that teaches you how to do things slightly differently. And the fruits of failure, when you bounce back from failure, you are adapt to changing circumstances effectively. You can change when the circumstance changes, right? So Now that I have been laid off from a job, am never afraid of what would it feel like to be laid off, right? Now that I have, I have left a job and a steady paycheck, I am no longer afraid what will happen if I don't get that paycheck at the end of the month, right? So that is where adaptability comes into the picture, right? What else? Well, this is another important point: communication and teamwork skills. Because as an entrepreneur, the first thing you realize is that you cannot solve all the world's problems. It is impossible. You cannot solve the world's hunger problems. But if you work in teams, right? If you communicate with your teams and you each team member understands their roles and responsibilities in a community exercise, then the overall synergies, then the overall product or the solution is much, much better. And this is where this entrepreneurial skill uh, helps in pitching ideas, in negotiating and collaborating with others. Remember, you negotiate every day. You might negotiate with your friends what to do in the evening, whether to go out for a movie or to go out for some golgappas, or to go out and have a roti, or have a dinner or something. So there is always constant negotiation. Every time you get on an auto and you are going to your college, you might be negotiating, right? Saying, I'm going to pay this much. This is what the other person is asking for. So even unknowing to you, you are already negotiating, right? Many of you, I don't know how many of you accompany your parents to the bazaar every day, or how many of you do that yourself. And you understand, if you do, you are picking up that skill of negotiation. You are trying to figure out, that when you are negotiating, it is not about saying no, right? It is very easy to say that I don't like this, but when you are negotiating, you are getting into a stage where you are saying, I don't like this, but I can do this. When you give the other person something to work with, you can build on top of that, right? Many times you collaborate, right? You collaborate, if I'm sure many of you, when you are doing your maths homework or something, you would have divided up the work between multiple people and done smaller pieces and then combined all of it together. That is collaborative work, right? Many of you are on different WhatsApp groups, right? So you are communicating with each other, you are making plans, you are, that's really the essence of collaborating, right? But if you are feeling isolated, if you are feeling that you have to do everything by yourself, then that would become a very, very difficult activity to perform. The more you communicate with others, the more you will find that there is an ecosystem out there, that others are trying to help you. And the more people help each other, the better and the more complex things that they can achieve, right? So once you understand what it is about teamwork, as you go, and even if you work for a particular organization, you this teamwork is what is essential for you to grow in that organization itself. Remember, in most organizations, when you join the company, it is about what you are contributing at an individual level. If you are a software developer, at an individual level, you might be able to write 100 lines of code in a month, right? But if you have good teamwork, then in a good team, you might be able to write, 3 people might be able to write 1,000 lines of code, right? In even larger teams today, if you think about role models like, say, Sundar Pichai, or all the big names that you hear about, they are in the position they are in because of their teamwork and communication skills, because they are able to make large teams work together. That is very, very important. What else? Okay. I wanted to talk about self-motivation and discipline, because that's a classic hallmark of an entrepreneur. Because as an entrepreneur, there are just so many challenges to your time and to your attention span effectively, right? There are so many things to do. You will have to file for some taxes. You will have to make sure that things are moving well. You have to talk to a vendor. You have to talk to a customer, right? There are zillions of different things that you have to do, right? Which is why it is up to you to figure out how to prioritize every activity, right? So even as young undergraduates, right, you have many things to do. You have to meet friends. You have family obligations. You have to study. You have to prepare for some other exam. There could be a game that is on TV that you wanted to watch, right? There could be some, you want to play some PUBG. So there are a lot of different things that are waiting for your attention. So it is really up to you to figure out which of those activities are really, really important at that moment, right? And that is where self-motivation and discipline comes into the picture. Because what discipline allows you to do is restrain yourself from doing something, right? If you have an exam coming up and you know that you have some prep work to do for that exam, right, then probably playing PUBG is not the top of your priority list at that moment, right? So you can defer that until the exams are over. Alternatively, if you are a professional PUBG player, right, then practicing for playing PUBG is your primary task, and you are going to take up tasks including running marathons, going to the gym to make sure that you are physically fit to practice playing the game for a long, long time. So whatever your goal is, I'm not advocating that you should be studying over playing. I'm advocating that whatever your goal is, you should be able to align your tasks or activities based on that, because then you get to maximize the time and effort that you are spending. Right? So that is very, very important. And one thing that is very often missed, right, is that you must network. You may be the most brilliant person the world has ever produced, but if nobody knows about the work that you are doing or who you are, then it's going to become very hard to move on, right? Even today, I go back to my IIT friends, right? If I am stuck in a particular thing, whether it is technical or in my personal life, I can go back to my friends because all of them are in different domains. They work in different kinds of organizations. So if I message out to my group, somebody will come back saying that, hey, I know somebody who has done something like this, right? So you may want to connect with that individual, right? That's what networks give you. LinkedIn is a very, very good space to start networking at this point itself. You are all very young. If you start building your network now, you can ask from your network, right? You can ask your network about relationships, about contacts, about introductions later on, but you cannot do it if you're starting networking today, right? So you have to go out and tell the world, this is me, this is what I do, these are my capabilities and these are my skills. How can I be of assistance? That's very, very important for an entrepreneur, because as an entrepreneur, you are the first and the most important salesman in your organization. Unless you are selling what you have to offer, nobody is going to buy. So embracing entrepreneurship opens up numerous networking opportunities because you become freer. You want to go and talk to people, right? As students, you can connect with like-minded peers or professionals or even, HRs from companies that you are interested in, potential mentors, right? Potential investors. And these are all long-term investments. In fact, I was on LinkedIn today, and somebody from your institution put out a post saying, they got a job offer and it was a fake offer. So I was able to, because we were connected on LinkedIn, I was able to respond back saying that, hey, this looks like a fake offer, but don't be disappointed. I put out that he was looking for a job in my network, right? And somebody or the other might reach out to him and create an opportunity, right? You do not know how these opportunities come about, but unless you are going to go out there and you are willing to network, these synergies will never come back to you. You will not know what is going on in the world. And remember, there are 8.5 lakh engineers who are graduating every year. You do not know what kind of network who has. How can they leverage that network and get to know about new opportunities that you might be unaware of? That is why networking is very, very important. Again, as I said, you do not need to have a company to be networking. Right? It is an entrepreneurial skill. If you are an entrepreneur, you must network. But you can network even without being an entrepreneur. You can network even without having your own shop. Right? All of you have seen, little tea shops all around. In fact, last time I went to your campus, there was a little shop outside the gate itself. Right? You will find that a lot of people will come and chit-chat around that shop. Those are called, essentially those are hotspots for communication. You will find that people are gathering there. You will meet a senior that you have not seen for a while. You will meet an auto driver there, people that you may not really interact with on a day-to-day basis. Ask them who they are. Ask them what do they do. You might get some new information. You might be able to leverage or use that small tea shop into a networking opportunity, right? But when you scale up, use professional networking platforms, right? You can technically network over Facebook or over Instagram, but these are social media which are meant to be social, which are not meant to be professional. So as a professional, I would strongly recommend that you build up your network on LinkedIn. There are 60 people who are attending today's talk. If you network between yourselves, you will have 60 people who are looking at different kinds of opportunities. Just imagine how exponentially your network has increased. Who knows who has found about an off-campus placement discussion that is going on somewhere. Maybe that is useful to you, which is why build your network. Know who are the trusted people in your network. Know who are the people who are information gatherers in your network. Know who are the people who are the actual doers in your network. Right? So you need to be able to classify what kind of resources you have in your network. I'm spending a lot of time on this because it is a very, very important topic to cover. Right? Yes. Yes, Shorab. Yes, Shorab, Gayan. Tell me. Shorab, please go ahead. Shorab, go ahead. Ask your question. Yes, Rajesh. Rajesh, you can call me Atanu. That's perfectly fine.
Sir, I have one question.
Yes, please.
In government always says that don't run behind the job. Please develop your own organization and we'll always help you to become an entrepreneur. So
Yes.
entrepreneur means like to consulting others or to giving ideas, good ideas or
that would be mentorship. When you are talking about consultations or providing ideas to others, it is about
giving ideas or just it is like a business, entrepreneurship.
Entrepreneurship can come in various ways, right?
Or it is a self-employment.
It is definitely self-employment. Entrepreneurship comes about in various ways. In many cases, I will cover this in a little bit, but there are family businesses. There are people who have had a family business and they are growing it in new areas. That is entrepreneurship. Somebody who wants to, in India, the Companies Act of 2013 allows us to create something called a one-person company or a OPC, right? An OPC is like a proprietary company, but proprietary companies could not be registered with the Ministry of Corporate Affairs. But OPCs can be registered, right? Then you can have startups, You can have MSME businesses, right, which are cottage industries, medium, small scale industries, right? For each of these different types of organizations, there are various schemes that are available from the government, right? For startups, there is a startup seed fund that is available. There is Nidhi fund that is available. For protecting ideas in this startup, there is funds that are available under the Kapila scheme. For MSMEs, there are various kinds of loans that are available at subsidized rates. There are MSME grant programs that are organized by various institutions from time to time, right? It gives you collateral-free loans, right? For OPCs, because it can be registered and you can get a DPIIT registration, right? It gives you significant taxation benefits. If you start a company of your own, the government actually gives you a domain name for free, right? It gives you 3 years of tax holidays, right? It allows you to be registered on the Startup India portal, where you can participate in various kinds of vertical focused activities that are created from time to time, right? So entrepreneurship really is about starting on your own, looking for your own avenues to create your own revenue sources, creating value for your ecosystem, doing something that people will pay for in your ecosystem.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Because if anything can be entrepreneurial, even just understand this, that even the person who is selling tea outside your college, right? They are entrepreneurial because they have figured out a supply chain. They have figured out what is the most cost-effective way of bringing those little bars from somewhere. They have figured out
That
what
means
is the
even a person get into job, he is also an entrepreneur, right? If a person get into job, he is also an entrepreneur.
Not
right?
necessarily, because in many of the jobs, right, people are expecting that they will be told what to do. When you go into a job with an entrepreneurial spirit, it is for you to figure out what to do in the job, right? So rather than expecting a job, joining a company and saying that, today it is very hard for somebody to go to a company and say, I can do everything and everything, please give me a job. The first question you'll be asked is, what is it that you will do? The next question that you will be asked is, your salary is X. How will you contribute 3X to the company?
Okay.
Right? If you look at, most of the jobs that you will find today, especially in the private sector, you will have a significant chunk of your remuneration coming in terms of incentives.
Okay.
And those incentives come about because there are goals associated with it. Okay. Even with government jobs, right, there are, there is a personal file that is maintained, right, and the personal file has to be, your professional record, any kind of professional faults or anything are recorded in your personal file, right?
Okay. Okay.
So,
okay.
Entrepreneurship is a lot about going about and thinking about how to improve the process that you are in.
Okay.
Right? If I am doing X today, how do I do 2X tomorrow?
Okay.
Right? Because that creates a segue into what I was talking about next, is because when you have an entrepreneurial mindset, right, you tend to have a lot more career flexibility and diversification.
No, sometime I may think, why I will become a job creator? Why not? Why I will become a job seeker? Why not become a job creator?
Exactly. That is why this entire program has been created. So that even if there are 10 people who are thinking about creating something of their own, it could be small, right? Today, for example, a couple of months ago, I was in this little village in a place called Chiplan in Pune, right? and I met a young team of women who are part of a self-help group, and they were making they had stock of about 5 tons of barley or 5 tons of millets. They didn't know what to do. They were thinking about how to make little packets out of that millet and sell it. But instead, when we talked with them, right, we figured out that they were already doing a lot of traditional recipes, right? So we brought them all together, put them into some kind of an assembly line, right? So somebody started kneading the dough, somebody started making a little shapes out of them, somebody started baking them, and we were able to put together an assembly line where we are making millet cookies, right? So whereas that 5 ton of millets has a certain market value, the moment you convert that into a packaged product of a millet cookie and open up a platform like ONDC or Amazon to them, right? Suddenly that same stock is worth almost 100 times more.
Yeah.
Right? That is what I mean by connecting capital to labor. The labor was always there. They were putting as much effort to make from that 50 kilo bags. They were making 1 kilo bags, right? So the labor was being put in there. But now they have changed that labor a little bit around, and they have gotten into a process of baking millet cookies, right? Now I have a different product line altogether. That is diversification. So a little bit of investment can help them make their own brand.
Good source of money.
Becomes a good source of money, right?
Yeah.
And they're not dependent on anyone anymore, right? So the government,
in terms of capital,
right? They're not dependent. There is a Goshti, there is a small financing scheme. There are several schemes that are available depending on which line you want to get into. And if you feel that there is a product that you can make, or there is a new service that you can provide, right? Remember, maybe about 8-10 years ago, having a cyber cafe was big business because people did not have access to internet over their phones.
Yeah.
Today, suddenly, repairing mobile phones has become a different kind of a business because there are so many mobile phones.
Yeah.
Right? So you can always think about what is that business that I can do, or what is that problem that I can solve best. That is what an entrepreneur does. It's not that they have they are solving everybody's problem. They are looking at what is it that they can do, and with what they can do, which problem can they solve best.
Okay.
Right? So many of you, a lot of you are computer science students, right? Now, as a computer science student, if you decide to go in and say that I want to, raise some puppies, right? Is that the best? Are you equipped to do that better than anybody else? Probably not. So you have to look at what your formal training is in to be able to monetize it. You can build services on what you know, and then you can do it much better.
Yeah.
Right? So an entrepreneurial mindset, it prepares students for a wide range of career paths, right? Once you work in a company, you know that these are the processes that I have to follow. What if I set up a separate company that will do the same processes? Right? That is how you start coming out and creating your own organization. Right? You can
develop your quality and utilize it for yourself.
Yes,
right.
Yes. Understand. So that is why reflection is very much important. Once you reflect on what is it that I represent, what is my core skill, what can I do better than others? And then you can start thinking about how can I use this to benefit others? Because the moment I can benefit somebody else, they will pay me.
Yeah.
Right? So you can choose to start your own ventures. You can join a startup or bring innovative thinking or to traditional roles in established organizations. You can do all of that. Many of the students here, I don't know, many of you may be coming in from agricultural backgrounds, right? Where your parents or their parents have been in traditional agriculture.
Yeah.
Today, agri-tech is a big business, right? What can you do to improve the way things are being done, right? Can you help your parents access funds better? Can you help them to look at satellite pictures and figure out what is the rain prediction over a particular monsoon cycle? Right? These are things that you can do.
Yeah.
And that is how you start creating value within the ecosystem, within your society.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah. Thank you. Sir.
Real world learning and application, because irrespective of how much you study in the books, unless you have actually faced the practical application, right? Unless you are using that academic knowledge in practical application, it will not settle in, right? All of you, those of you I come from a background in computer science, right? So many of you who are coming in from a computer background, right? You have learned all the programming languages, everything, right? Everything you know. But have you used it? Have you used it to build an application? Have you used it to build a website that the external world could use, right? That is where, when you build these real world applications of skills and theories, it definitely enhances your own understanding and retention of the subject. Today, many of you would have had a subject on data structures, for example, right? But unless you have used a hash function, you will not know what are the benefits.
That means identifying your own potentials.
Identifying your own potential is very, very important. Very, very important. And putting that in perspective of the world around you.
Yeah.
Right? Today, if you go and do a project, ask yourself, in the world of ChatGPT, how much effort would another person take to do this project? Is it, if you have spent 6 months, 1 year working as a group on a project, think about, can ChatGPT solve that problem in 5 minutes? If so, then there is a real issue. Then there is a real issue for you to be able to sustain your job down the line. A lot of things that seem feasible today are not going to be feasible down the line, right? Today, something like an Ola or an Uber generates a lot of employment because we need driver partners. But the developed world, right, California and all, they have already moved to autonomous vehicles. Today, you might think that a Swiggy delivery, an Amazon delivery, right, it generates a lot of employment. The world has already moved towards drone-based delivery. So even jobs which required manual movement of people, right? Even a lot of those jobs are going to change. There were a lot of jobs that used to be available for telecallers, right? Those jobs are going to go away in favor of voice-assisted calling. So where do you present yourself? What is the skill that you are going to bring to the world? Not today, but by the time you graduate. You have to reflect on that really, really deeply. Right? Otherwise, what ends up happening is you may be able to crack a job. You can go to a coaching center, they teach you a few things about how to crack a job, you say the right things in the interview, and you get the job. But then, when you actually get the work to be done, right, then it becomes increasingly difficult. And that is where you need to have that real world learning. So it's very, very important.
Sir,
yes.
Hello. Yeah. Sir, actually, I have a couple of questions. Actually, our students have already posted couple of questions in the chat box, sir.
Oh, sorry, I'm not able to see them.
But before proceeding to that, sir, I have just one question. Since our target audiences are mainly students, so, sir, what kind of typical training you would suggest to set up a successful business as an entrepreneur?
What kind of a training? The biggest trainer is life. So you have to try something, you have to fail, you have to try again. That resilience. So these skills that I am talking about, right, where you are building real world learning, you are trying to understand who really is your customer, right? Who are you selling to? There are many people who will come and talk to you, right? But how many of them are actually paying you money? And what is it that they are paying you for? You have to understand that very well. Today, if you hire a carpenter, right? You hire a carpenter to come and do some work in your house. Now, if the carpenter comes in and says that I am a trainee carpenter. I am going to learn at your expense. Are you going to allow that? You are not. You are going to ask, like, if you are not a good carpenter, if you do not know how to take measurements, I will not get my work done from you, right? Why is the same logic not applicable for a software developer? When you walk into a company, the company is not waiting to train you. It is not the company's responsibility to train you. It is your responsibility to go to an organization and tell them, this is what I can do, this is what I will do for you. Do you need this work to be done? Then the contract becomes much more stable. So in terms of entrepreneurship development, first of all, you need to understand what is a business. We're not going to get into that discussion today. IIC has a sequence of activities. If you look at the way the activities have been lined up, there are level 1 activities, which are motivational talks like this, right? It is to give you a sense that entrepreneurship is a valid option. The next thing that comes is level 2 activities. Level 2 activities talk about, day-long activities, right? Where you think a little bit more deeply, you build those collaboration skills. Level 3 activities are activities which are 2-day or longer. And that is where you start collaborating a lot more. Level 4 activities are where you start creating prototypes, right? And then you need to have a funnel. That is the IIC's responsibility. Many of the organizations, what they have done is they have set up incubator centers. So when a student in their 6th semester or the 7th semester are ready with an idea, they can come and pitch it to the incubation cell, right? And the incubation cell will actually pay money to incubate that idea. Why is the incubator paying money? Because the incubator will charge 8% of the company to be formed, right? So the incubator has to have a process so that they can sell off that 8% at a higher rate than what they pay. Because everybody has to make money. It has to be a win-win-win. Everybody has to make money.
Yes, and there are provision for relaxation of the attendance in case of the students that actually want to attend some sort of interview, training, or some sort of this. They want to get themselves involved in sort of the projects or so.
Yes. And then there are several incubators. So there are not only the college incubators, there are vertical focused incubators called the Atanu incubation centers. Then there are PIRAC centers, right? There are TRL labs. So there is a hierarchy of ecosystems that are available, right? Based on what area, what domain you are building a solution on.
Actually, as a part of our IIC Council, we have already set up an Industry Institute Interaction Cell, IIIC, that is also an integral part of this.
So what that is doing is, it can talk to a lot of different kinds of industries, right? But unless there is value on both sides, right? Today, for example, I am coming and giving you a talk. At the end of the talk, I will go home, right? I am already home, so I that ends our interaction over there, right? But unless there is an incentive to move forward, to create larger ecosystem, the entrepreneurial ecosystem will not develop. Right? For example, I'll give you, I sit on the board of numerous Atanu incubation centers. So in many of these, typically I hear anywhere between 200 to 300 pitches on a monthly basis, right? Different kinds of ideas are coming about. Some of them are valid, some of them requires a little bit more work, right? So I always encourage whoever I come across saying that start something. Unless you start, you have not done anything at all. But the moment you start, it may not work the first time, it may not work the second time. As Edison said, you can try, every time you try is a new way of failing, right? And those are all learnings. So definitely try to set up what kind of an organization you will be able to do. The challenge that I see is, I will find students of computer science coming back and saying that I want to build a travel portal, right? Now, when you say that you want to build a travel portal is a operational business. What I mean by that is, in order to build a travel portal, you need to have an ecosystem of hotel operators, flight operators, various kinds of logistics providers, and you have to manually go and talk with various kinds of people. The front end, the travel portal, is just a a web store. It is not a technology solution. If you are a computer science student, then probably building the travel portal is not what you are suited to do, right? If you are building a company as a computer science student, there has to be a technology element to it. If you are coming in from an operations background, if you already know what the travel industry is about, by all means, work with somebody who builds websites and get them to make a travel website for you, right? So you have to learn what your strengths are.
Yes, sir. And lastly, I have just one more last question. That's sir, what should be the typical characteristics of a successful entrepreneur?
A successful entrepreneur has to have a very, very clear vision of where they want to be. There is no earning before there is learning, right? So for a successful entrepreneur, two things are very important. One is there needs to be an absolutely clear vision of where they want to go. And second thing is they need to have absolute humility in order to know that there are many people, they do not control the market. The market has its own behavior, right? So what you do, who are your assets? What are the things that you can really bank upon? And who are your customers? How do you reach out to them, right? That is very, very important. Now, if you want to measure success in terms of financial success, then a successful entrepreneur has to know the unit cost of their products. They need to know the unit selling price of their product. They need to know what is the unit economics of every transaction that is going on.
Okay, sir, sure. And sir, I think there are some questions left in the chat box for you that is asked by our students. If you can just go through.
Absolutely. So I see a question by Ankit. You have two questions. What are the serious challenges in starting a new business today? The seriousness of a challenge is really a matter of perspective, because what can be challenging for me may not be challenging for you, right? What can be challenging for you may not be challenging for me. In general, I have come across different individuals who have started out of garages, out of dorm rooms, and who have gone ahead and made billion-dollar, multi-billion-dollar, even trillion-dollar organizations, right? So it is not about where you start from, right? I remember I was in a convocation where Bill Gates was getting his graduation ceremony, right? And he came up on stage and he was acting all funny and everything. And he got his certificate and he came up and said, the first thing he said was, "Dad, I graduated," right? So even, people who have dropped out of college have done tremendously well. Very, very extremely well-educated people have not been able to do anything, right? So does not mean that if you are not well-educated, you will not be able to do anything. There has to be a balance, right? So in terms of starting a new business, you have to first identify what are your strengths. What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? So unless you are true to yourself, you cannot start a business. The second thing that is important is, how can the market change suddenly? What are the threats in the market? What are the opportunities in the market, right? Nobody predicted something like a COVID coming in. But once COVID came in, industries like, airlines, they just tanked. Whereas industries like, online, furniture industries, for some reason, there was a huge spike in selling office chairs suddenly, because everybody was buying an office chair for home, right? So you do not know how the market headwinds change, right? So in terms of starting business, I think the most serious challenge is accepting to yourself that you want to do that business seriously. Give it your all. If it does not succeed, doesn't matter. It doesn't make you a failure. It means that you have learned a lot more things faster than many other people, right? The second thing is how to increase sales and techniques involved in this. That is a completely different area of discussion. How to increase sales depends on the product that you are offering, right? How you are packaging that particular product, FMCG companies, like shampoo companies, they were very, very successful by selling sachets in India. So in order to increase sales, you need to know your market. You need to know when does your customer make that decision to buy your product. And you have to have an influence over there. Today, if you are buying a mobile phone, tell me how many of you are actually going to the mobile website first, right? If you wanted to buy a Nokia phone, you're going to the Nokia website and placing an order. None of you. You are reviewing all the phones in that price range, in that category, all of that. So your entire information is coming from, people who are not related to Nokia, right? It is coming from third-party websites which are aggregating reviews, opinions, and all of that. And you are making a subconscious decision about it. You are watching cricket matches and thinking about going and joining Byju's, right? So advertising, sales, point of sale, where exactly do you sell something? That is important. That is how you understand the customer psyche, the customer persona, and you build your sales strategy and your marketing strategy accordingly so that you have a proper funnel. People who are getting influenced, people who are feeling the need for using your solution or your product, people who have the potential to buy who have the money to or the resources to buy your product, and people who are not swayed by competition. They are loyal to your product. They are the people who will come down this funnel and ultimately make that purchase. Right? Yes, Chandan.
Yes, sir.
Does that answer your question, Ankit?
Yes, sir.
Excellent. Yes, Chandan.
Thank you, sir.
Chandan Barik, you have raised your hand. So do you have any query? You can put it forward. So, sir, apart from the students, members, we have other faculties, senior faculty members from our institute who have joined with us. So, sir, anybody have any questions? We have along with us Parthu sir, Chirodip sir, Himadri sir, Ranjan sir. So, do you have any questions, sir? Please, you can interact.
Yeah, I think it is more important. If you have questions, it is far more, a lot of these discussions are far more interesting than me talking over a presentation. I'm sorry, my dogs have decided to make a mess. If there are no questions, I'll continue for a few more minutes, right?
Okay.
As I was talking about, entrepreneurship teaches you real leadership skills. I have seen so many CVs which say that they have a leadership skill, and they have absolutely zero leadership skill, right? You are not a leader unless you have stumbled, unless there is somebody you are leading, right? So if you are putting leadership skills in your CV, be ready to back that up by saying, how is it that you have led? How is it that you have made a consequential decision? How did you drive a project to success, right? These are your leadership skills, right? And entrepreneurship definitely increases that. Any entrepreneurial activity will teach you about money, because you are extremely aware of how much money you have, how much money you are spending, how much money you are making, right? So financial literacy, whether you are financially literate or not, if you have gone to the bazaar, you know what the rates are. You know how to interact, you know how to negotiate, right? These negotiation skills will serve you well throughout your career. So running entrepreneurial projects, even on a small scale, even if you go and sit in your father's small store, it will teach you about management. It will teach you about financial literacy. It will teach you budgeting. It will teach you resource allocation skills, right? That are beneficial lifelong. Right? And of course, if you're doing that, you will have that increased confidence and independence. When you go and interact in your interviews or any other person, right? You will have the confidence, because that confidence comes from experiences, right? Today I'm sharing, I'm sharing a lot of things confidently with you, because these are part of my experiences. I know them as if I can almost imagine the situations that I have gone through, right? That is the source of my confidence, right? So whenever you get into an entrepreneurial activity, right, it definitely increases your confidence and you take on a social responsibility. You tend to understand what is the problem you are solving, whose problem you are solving, how is it impacting society. So this does instill a sense of social responsibility in students, motivating them to work towards a greater good, right? So this is, in a nutshell, what I call the 12 entrepreneurial skills, right, that you should all be having. And I have a few minutes more, so I'm going to talk a little bit about entrepreneurial attitude, and that is slightly different from skills. Skills is something that you can acquire. Attitude is something that is innate, right? Attitude is something that it's a perception. And if you look at what people, what famous entrepreneurs have talked about entrepreneurship, right? If you look at Edison, he said opportunity is missed by most people because it is dressed in overalls and looks like work. This is important because ideas seem very, very fancy. They're like, oh, I have this brilliant idea. Trust me, I get an idea every day. But the hard part, right, is when you have to implement those ideas. It is about recognizing the opportunities even when they require a lot of hard work. Because any entrepreneurial success is 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration. You have to work towards your success. There are absolutely no shortcuts there. Right? You need to build your foundation brick by brick. Every organization is built like that, right? Otherwise, you may share the same kind of story as Byju's, right? Whose valuation, which had enormous valuation, but it could not deliver on what it was promising, and it is crashing like anything, right? Richard Branson, Virgin Atlantic chap, right? Very, very famous, very flamboyant entrepreneur. He said that drudgery and clock watching are a terrible betrayal of the universal inborn entrepreneurial spirit. Each and every one of you has potential. Each and every one of you have potential. But if you are just waiting to punch the clock, which means that you are just in office to just pass the day, right? It is an injustice to you. It is an injustice to your own existence because you are not realizing what you can do, right? Henry Ford said, remember that the airplane takes off against the wind, not with it. So whenever you are starting a venture, there's going to be competition. There are going to be other people who are going to say that this is not going to work, right? There are going to be financial issues. There are going to be people who leave your organizations. All of that will happen. But your entrepreneurial attitude is to be able to move forward, right? Shashank Andy, I don't know how many of you know of him. He's the founder of a company called Practo, right? Which tries to make healthcare affordable and accessible to everybody online, right? And even he said that the goal has always been about solving a problem we deeply care about rather than making money. So making money becomes an outcome of the problem that is being solved, right? Ratan Tata, another stalwart, another captain of the industry. He says that if you want to walk fast, walk alone. But if you want to walk far, walk together. This is where teamwork comes into the picture. This is where if you have to grow very large, you have to take everybody along with you, right? Because then the synergies that are created are far more, right? They propel you much, much faster and create something that is lasting, right? There are a few more examples over there. Kunal Shah, right? Founder of Cred, right? If you accept the worst that can ever happen in your journey, fear won't ever be an obstacle in starting. Very clear on that, right? If you're not, that takes away that fear part. What is there to fear? Fear is in your mind, right? But if there is a reasonable, if you are making data-based decisions, if you know that taking a decision will either help you gain X or lose X, you can make a decision on top of that. It doesn't matter what else happens. You can still move forward with that, right? And I really like the one by Azim Premji, right? If people are not laughing at your goals are too small. Because when you build large organizations, the alignment is always at the vision level. Alignment is not at a transactional level. When people like your vision, they will come and support you, right? So, if you look at cultivating an entrepreneurial spirit, to summarize the wisdom of all the people that I talked about in my previous slide, if I summarize that, it is about, first of all, embracing failure as a learning opportunity. Every time you fail, you need to reflect. You need to reflect and saying that what could you have done better? What could you have changed? What was in your control? When you are making a decision, you have three choices. A, you can do something about it. B, you may be able to do something about it. C, you cannot do anything about it. If you cannot do anything about it, giving it brain space, giving it time and effort is a waste of your brain space. If you can do something about it, please do. If you can maybe do something about it, maybe take a decision a little later. Right? But embrace failure as a learning opportunity. Stay curious and keep learning. I know this sounds very cliched, but think about what I am saying. Stay curious, look at what are the sources of knowledge that are available. Where can you keep learning from? What will you learn? There is so much information that is available. Finding the right kind of information is itself a different skill, right? There is YouTube, there are papers that are available on Google Scholar, there is Wikipedia, there is ChatGPT, there are zillions of sources of information. What is it that you need to get better at what you are doing? That is where your curiosity becomes directed, right? Stay resilient. Very, very important, right? Develop the ability to bounce back from setbacks. Right? Challenges are part of the journey. If you are faced with an uphill task, right? Remember there are others who have faced similar situations. Talk to them, right? Nothing that
Sir,
can
Shandip Maheshwari.
Yes.
Shandip Maheshwari, that is
Yes.
one of the biggest business coach. That is also an entrepreneurship, right? Type of.
He's a business coach, so he has made giving coaching as his business.
Yeah.
Right. So for him, giving coaching or giving, he provides consult. If somebody is providing consultations, you go to a doctor. Why do you go to a doctor? Because the doctor has spent enormous amount of time, building up a body of knowledge and looking at patients over and over and over and over again to be able to identify what is wrong with a particular individual. Right? I named my company Capsule Labs. Nobody asked me why I named it Capsule Labs. I thought I'm going to go into an organization and figure out what is wrong with an organization and give it the right kind of medicine in a capsule, which is why I called my company Capsule Labs. Okay. Different organizations can have different kinds of problems. There could be an HR problem, there could be a payroll problem, there could be a marketing problem. What is wrong? What is not allowing an organization to reach its potential? I diagnose that. That is my job. So you can sell anything as a service. A lawyer will sell their expertise in handling cases to be able to provide legal advice. A management consultant will provide information or improve processes so that they function better. A business consultant will help structure a business slightly differently so that it opens up more capital. It allows people to be able to move forward with their resources. Okay.
Thank you, sir.
So what else is happening over here? I talked about cultivating resilience, right? I talked about fostering creativity and innovation. Then it's also very important, right? Because without innovation, you cannot stay ahead of the market. If you can manufacture something at X today, believe me, in a few months or a few years' time, somebody else will be able to manufacture the same thing at X minus delta. Then your market is gone. But if you always invest in an R&D process, if you always keep your creativity sharp, you will be ahead of the curve. By the time your competitors are building what you are providing, you would have the next version available, right? Set clear goals and vision. This is where your discipline, your time management, all of that comes into foray, comes into the core picture, right? You need to develop risk-taking abilities, calculated risks. It is not about taking uncalculated risks where you go in and bet on cryptocurrency. No, that's not the kind of risk-taking abilities that I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is calculated risks, right? Learn how to make calculated risks. Assess the potentials of downsides and the benefits. But don't shy away from taking action even if there is a slight chance of failure. Today, I don't know how many of you watched the cricket match between England and India, right? The so-called baseball format. Baseball is an extremely risk-taking form of cricket, right? England went out, they went hammer and tongs against India, but this time it did not pay off. Right? They lost all their wickets by, I think, 230 or something like that. Right? So it's a very calculated risk that they took, right? That is what risk-taking abilities are about, right? I already mentioned build a strong network, right? All of you, if you need to connect with me on LinkedIn, it just takes a click, but you will get to know what I am doing, what are the job opportunities I'm talking about. That's information, that's information, that's valuable information that is coming to you, right? Why will you not do that? Practice self-discipline, right? Again, part of why you should be setting clear goals and visions, right? So eventually this boils down to adopting what I call is a problem-solving mindset, if you want to summarize that, right? There are a few more. There is about embracing change and adaptability. These are some of the, if you are passionate and driven, you tend to spend a lot more time learning deeper skills in your area of work, right? If somebody is a dancer, if somebody is a singer and they're passionate about singing, you will spend time practicing. If you are passionate about coding, you will spend time coding, right? You will spend 10, 12, 15 hours in a week sitting by yourself coding, because that's something that makes you happy. When you do something that you are passionate about, you become good at doing it. You will do it a lot more, right? Reflective thinking. If you can spend some time thinking about your day, what is the one thing that you did today that you are proud about? What is the one thing that you did today that you are not proud about, right? Can you change either of them? Can you ensure that what you are proud about, you can repeat that tomorrow? Something that you are not proud about, can you take it out from your system? Can you practice restraint on doing that? Right? So that's important. Seek feedback and act on it. It's not, it's very difficult to think of ourselves, to get into this mindset in the age of social media and everything. What will people think of me? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. But what is important is, I think I'm the best in the world, right? But my peers, those around me, they think that I'm a dud. There is a gap. So when you seek feedback from your peers, from your seniors, from your juniors, you understand how the world perceives you. And that is how you find out what are the gaps that you have that needs improvement. If you think that you are best at everything, then you will never give yourself that opportunity to become better. But if you seek feedback, if you are open to listening, then you will hear what other people have to say about you, and you have an opportunity to correct that and become better. Right? So maintain a positive attitude. Yeah, things may not go your way all the time, but if you maintain a positive attitude, it reflects in the work that you are doing, right? Be customer centric, understand what the customer wants, and your customer, for those of you who are faculty members, your customers are the students, right? Eventually you are paid to be able to deliver value to the students, to understand what they want, right? If they are interested in something or not interested in something, how can you make their experience a little better, right? That's what it needs to be understood. Time management and prioritization. What do you need to do better, right? Celebrate small wins. Today we had a discussion. We all came together. There's 60 of us who have spent 1.5 hours together, right? It is a small win. It is, an opportunity where, you got to ask a few questions. We had a discussion. At the end of the day, we all connected. That's a win, right? Celebrate it. It's something good, right? And finally, stay healthy and balanced. Even today, the more you work, Vishwanathan Anand, right? He's a chess player. He one of the best chess players that we have ever produced. And if you look at his gym regime, if you look at his health regime, right, it is almost like a professional athlete, because when you are taking on a high stress entrepreneurial role, entrepreneurial job, right, things are going to be stressful out there, which is why you need a healthy work-life balance, right? Even today, I will go out for walks in the morning. I will have my quiet time so that I am settled. When I go into work, I am confident of what I'll be able to do. I'm not jittery. It is very important to be well nourished and healthy. If you are young and you think that you can, stay up 3 nights and you can probably do something, but it will become more and more difficult as you get older. Right? So it is important to rationalize your time and work within that. Be productive as long as you are working. If you're not being productive, let it be, do it tomorrow. Because if you stretch yourself today, you are borrowing from tomorrow with interest. Right? So that's very important. And I think we are pretty much out of time, but this was one point which somebody had asked this question earlier on, right? In terms of what kind of businesses and if entrepreneurship means a business. I'm going to just touch upon that one, because there are family businesses where there is an existing business and you're expected to grow that, right? With MSME or workshop, it is about creating something that already exists in the market, but you are making more of it available. With LLCs or limited liability companies or with startups, the focus becomes more on innovation, right? Which is why with startups, it is hard to get bank funding, right? With MSMEs, you might be able to get bank funding. So that is why with startups, we have support from the government in terms of startup seed fund schemes and so on. With OPCs and practices, right? One-person companies or whether it is a clinic, whether it is a legal practice, it is a skill-focused activity, which means you are good at something and you set up a company around it, right? So when you are building as an entrepreneur, you can come in from any of these aspects, right? And still grow. I think I'm not going to get into the design thinking part as to how you grow that entrepreneurial part of it today. But what I want to conclude before I conclude my talk, I wanted to show you this picture. I wanted to show you this picture because it's the what I think about in terms of the innovative essence of Indian engineers, right? I'm going to paraphrase something that I've already written, right? In the vibrant landscape of Indian innovation, where the hues of tradition blend with the colors of modern technology, a new generation of engineers is emerging. These are not just individuals. They are the embodiments of a spirit that has long defined India's approach to problem solving, a blend of ingenuity, resilience, and an unyielding drive. Now, each character represents a facet of this spirit. On the left, you have a young engineer interacting with advanced AI using holographic interfaces. So she kind of symbolizes the cutting-edge innovation that the Indian engineers are known for globally. In the top corner, there's a team that is collaborating over a network of interconnected devices, a nod to India's powers in software development and its integral role in the digital revolution. Their teamwork symbolizes the collaborative nature of Indian engineering, whose diverse minds come together to forge solutions that reshape industries. On the right, there is a figure that is gazing thoughtfully at a sustainable energy model, reflecting India's commitment to green technology and sustainable development. It symbolizes the desire to harmonize technological advancements with environmental stewardship. Finally, on the right bottom, next we have a visionary entrepreneur who's sketching out a blueprint of a smart city, embodying the entrepreneurial spirit that thrives in India's tech hubs. He represents the dreamers and the doers who turn visions into concrete realities, driving India's ascent in the global tech arena. Finally, on the right bottom, a figure stands equipped with virtual reality gear, looking into the realms of virtual and augmented reality. She represents the forward-thinking aspect of Indian engineering, always exploring new frontiers and expanding the horizons of technology. Together, these characters weave a narrative of a nation at the forefront of technological innovation. They are the bearers of a legacy that dates back centuries, now writing a new chapter in the digital age. Why I read that out is because this image, which is rich in orange and blue midtones, is more than just a visual representation. It's a testament to the spirit of Indian engineers, right? This whole text was created by generative AI. So Gen AI today is at a level of maturity to create such a deep narrative. Now that should be reason enough for each and every one of you to get outside your comfort zones and build on your entrepreneurial spirit. Otherwise, it's going to become extremely difficult to sustain a job as you go out and go into and join the workforce, right? If Gen AI can create this kind of narrative today, imagine where it will be in 2 to 3 years' time by the time you graduate. I wanted to leave you with that thought, right? And any further final questions I will take.
Sir, I think we are already covered up all the questions. So if you don't mind, we are just trying to conclude the session.
Absolutely, absolutely. Please go ahead.
Okay, am I audible?
Yes.
Yeah. Thanks, Office. It's been a nice brainstorming session for all of us. Obviously, sorry for that because I've been traveling through the car, but I've been watching your session. I think it was the last year that I watched you live for 1 or 2 sessions. It was fascinating as it was today, actually. Anyway, we'll take your further questions from students and we'll get in touch with Mel, sir. Okay. And thank you very much for being with us for the last 1.5 hours. And I'll promise we'll take a place that we'll take this discussion in the forward, obviously, just by doing some of the joint ventures with Capsule Labs and all. As I had a talk with Chundi regarding these things. Okay, sir. So thank you very much, sir. Thank you. Thank you all for attending this session.
I am looking forward to all of you connecting with me on LinkedIn.
Okay.
All the
Thank
students.
you, sir. Thank you very much.
That's the only way you get to move forward. Okay?
Yes.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, everybody.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Good night.
Good night.
Thank you.